Hey everybody, Douglas Blair Roberts here, the Super Vader 400 and the brown skin Hewitt, coming back at you with another video cartoon intro remake review intro. This is the intro to various remade cartoon reviews and rants. For some odd reason, even though I did do this in the past, when it one of the Sonic songs I used has a copyright on it, and it's not a big deal. But if I ever when I decide to set this channel up, when I get eligible for monetization, I can't get any money from ads from the video, so that's why I'm just redoing it with two different songs that surprisingly don't have copyrights on them. This version is the same as the last one, except my clothes and stuff will be different, and of course the intro songs will be different. Instead of using what I'm made of, I will use the songs intros will be Weekend and Sonic's Back in Time. And for cartoons that do deserve a rant, or for videos that do deserve a rant, what I'm made of will be used as the outro for the various cartoons. So yeah, this is the intro to various narration. Part 1 will be narration. Second part will be season and episode webcam reviews spliced together to one video. Some of these won't go on all platforms. Yes, some of these will only go on YouTube, and some of these will only go on Facebook. So with that being said, let's get started right now. Let's go back in time to when television and cartoons were great. Hey everybody, it's time for my review of the USA Cartoon Express sequel sister block, a much superior successor, USA Action Extreme, which was a more action adventure oriented cartoon block for children in the mid to late 90s, which aired from 1995 to 1998. I vaguely remember this briefly. I saw this briefly in the mid 90s. I didn't get to watch this block often because, well, once again, I didn't own my own television at the time, so I couldn't watch this often. And there was a brief period from late '97 till midsummer, late to midsummer 1998, where I didn't have cable, so I couldn't watch this block. Often. And by the time when I fully got cable back, the block was wrapping up. It finished in September of 1998. I think this block right here is one of the coolest and one of the greatest blocks of one of the greatest blocks of not only 90s but of all times. The greatest cartoon lineup of all times blows Kids WB, Fox Kids, Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, Disney Channel, and many more blocks. It blows each of them out of the water. Blows them out of water. Of course, this block ended up being canceled when USA, in my opinion, decided to make the bonehead decision to get rid of their cartoon block. To this day, I think that's one of USA's most bonehead decisions. Look at where USA is in the modern day because of dumb decisions like this. And number two, the block. What was I gonna say? Yeah, of course, the block closed down due to increasing competition from Cartoon Networks, from other children's channels like Cartoon Network's Disney Channel and Nickelodeon, especially Cartoon Network with their brand new Toonami brand, which provided a bigger and better outlet for action-oriented cartoons. But like I said, I thought this was the coolest block in the world. Lots of programmings, old and new, premiered here. We're gonna start off with the newer stuff because that's the stuff I'm most familiar with, and the stuff, not newer stuff, but the newer original programming. That's the stuff I'm most familiar with and mostly associate with this block right here. So the very first one was the very first show was Exo Squad. Was Exo Squad, a sci-fi space opera superhero based cartoon that I started watching in 2016 and immediately became a fan of it. I gotta finish watching it. I barely remember what I was watching, but from what I've seen, it's pretty good. This is my first mention. This is actually my second mention. I mentioned this and it made my favorite and best cartoons list. Then the next show I started watching in 2014, and that's the famous Image comic book franchise Savage Dragon, based upon the comic book of the same name. This short-lived animated series, and Savage Dragon is mostly known for Savage Dragon. That franchise, that comic book, is known for having the same writer for multiple decades. You know, after multiple decades, they change a different writer arrives on the special comic book character, and a different writer arrives on the comic book character and does whatever he or she wants. With Savage Dragon, this had the same writer throughout its throughout its run. This cartoon is also known for being part of a 4-part crossover with the next 3 animated series I'm talking about, which of course are all video game based animated series. First is probably the biggest cartoon on this the biggest, and I would say most popular, the biggest, most popular cartoon on this list. This is one of the only ones not to be featured on most people's worst cartoons list, and is probably considered the better of the so-called good bad video game cartoons of all time. And that, of course, as you can see by the picture, the very awesome Street Fighter, the animated series. Yes, I'm talking about this underrated gem of a cartoon, which in my opinion is one of the greatest video game cartoons of all time. And not only one of the greatest video game cartoons, one of the greatest action adventure cartoons, period. This cartoon is everything an action adventure cartoon and a video game cartoon could be. And of all these lasted longest lasted 2 seasons more. Only issues I have with this cartoon is that 26 episodes of Street Fighter. That is a great number, but that still isn't enough. They were still making games at the time, and they canceled it way too soon. But in my opinion, one of the best adaptations of Street Fighter outside of its video game counterpart, alongside Alpha, the animation, the movie, and the Udon comic books, which that probably is the supreme best adaptation of Street Fighter outside of his video game. That's the closest to the lore. Savage Dragon had a 4-part crossover with this cartoon and the next one, Mortal Kombat, Defenders of the Realm. The infamous Mortal Kombat Defenders of the Realm. Like I said in plenty of reviews, this cartoon has a predominantly mixed and negative reception, but in my opinion remains one of my all-time favorite cartoons. This was one of the very first USA Action Extreme cartoons I saw as a kid, and I thought it was the greatest thing ever. When I got older in the 2000s, it wasn't the creative masterpiece I thought it was. Then I actually sat down and actually rewatched the show after watching a bunch of what I see as terrible reviews. I sat down and watched the show. The show is even better than it was when I was a kid, especially now that I understand Mortal Kombat lore. The show is not without its flaws, but I consider it one of the best Saturday morning cartoons of all time. I even went off on a guy who accused me of being a nostalgic and not seeing his flaws. So Mortal Kombat, Defenders of the Realm, and for that time, great adaptation of Mortal Kombat's 1 through 4. It is an alternate sequel to the 1995 film. Utilizes character designs and storylines from Mortal Kombat 3, but is set somewhere during the Mortal Kombat 2 period, as Shao Kahn has not invaded Earth in this adaptation yet. Then you got the last one, in my opinion, the weakest cartoon on this list. I've seen this cartoon. I don't know much about their video game franchise, but I've seen this cartoon and it's pretty good. The Wing Commander Academy. What I love the most about this cartoon is, besides the animation, the very cool Japanese anime style animation, was this cartoon, Savage Dragon, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Defenders of the Realm, and Wing Commander. They were all part of a 4-part crossover involving a Thor-like warrior and a Thor He-Man looking warrior in the Warrior King, going from dimension to dimension, chasing a giant orb that was featured in 4 episodes of these 4 episodes each of these 1 episode each of these cartoons, making 4 of these 4 cartoons that had different effects. Most of these shows were kind of canceled before this crossover could be fully realized, but I thought it was one of the coolest things ever. This was the closest we had to a Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter crossovers in the 90s. So Now These were the original shows. These were the original shows that were specifically created as top draws for this awesome USA Action Extreme block. Now we get to some of the other shows that were inherited from other networks, such as the very awesome of Sonic. The very awesome adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, the very first adaptation of Sonic I've seen. Yes, I even like this Sonic cartoon, even though I've had to look past the nostalgia and realize how terrible this cartoon is. Despite how terrible it is, I still like it, and I still appreciate this cartoon for starting it all for the Sonic cartoons. The very awesome Sonic, Sat AM, and other adaptations came about because this cartoon right here started it all for the Sonic franchise. Without this one, the other ones wouldn't be here. Then you got the very awesome Highlander, the animated series, which I just recently started watching, which I heard about in the mid 2000s and started watching in the mid to late 2010s. Phenomenal cartoon, and dark and violent for the 90s. Then the very awesome Sonic Sat AM cartoon, which I consider one of the best action adventure cartoons of all time. I'm really happy there's a fan base season 3 project called Return to Metropolis coming soon. The only issue I have with this cartoon, three actually. One, no appearances from Knuckles and Amy. Second, Tails is mostly a supporting character here, and replacing him is a lame fox named Antoine. Third, right when the show when there was a huge cliffhanger at the end of season 2, and then the season 3 never happened because the show was canceled. And 4, there was an episode called Super Sonic that had nothing to do with the Super Saiyan Sonic transformation, but one of the greatest cartoons ever. The very awesome Superman and Batman adventure cartoons, one of the best cartoons featuring these characters right here, also appeared on this block. The super awesome. I briefly talked about this cartoon in 2013. Never got a chance to talk about it again, but here's my chance to talk about it, and that's the very Wildcats cartoon, which I consider Image's answer to both the X-Men and Justice League. This cartoon reminds me of the X-Men, the animated series, and the last 2 seasons of the Super Friends cartoons, the Galactic Guardians Legendary Superpower Team, Super Friends, Super Friends cartoon. The team is not as good as those teams. But in my opinion, they have one of the coolest leaders and characters in the main character in Hadrian Spartan, who's like a hybrid of Cyclops, and the Terminator. Then the very awesome underrated sequel to the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, Super Mario Brothers 3, which this adaptation was closer to the video game than the previous one, the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. Yeah. Then, my opinion, one of the very first video game cartoons, and I consider the prototype of what the Mortal Kombat Defenders of the Realm cartoon and the Street Fighter animated series would be, and that's the very famous Double Dragon cartoon. One of the cartoons I associate with the 90s, and just like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, in my opinion, one of the greatest action adventure cartoons of all time. The only thing I hate was 1 to 2 things was never resolved. They never found their father. They never released their mother from the void. And while they defeated both the Shadow Dragon and Shadow Khan, there was never a moment where Shadow Dragon was either permanently killed or brought in for his numerous crimes. But yeah. Then you got then you got another cartoon called Mighty Max, which I've heard of but never watched. I've never watched it. I've never cared for it. The only Max I know is Fantastic, the Hanna-Barbera cartoon, Fantastic Max. Yeah. Then you got the next Super Mario Brothers show. The next Super Mario Brothers, next and final Super Mario Brothers show, Super Mario Brothers World, which I really have to see. I've heard interesting and good things about this cartoon. Yeah, I really gotta watch this one. Then you got the infamous Street Sharks. You got the famous Street Sharks cartoon. Let me tell you my history with this cartoon. It's the same in every video I talk about Street Sharks. Street Sharks. For years, for decades, saw the VHSs at Blockbuster, and I always avoided them because I saw them as a shameless ripoff of the Ninja Turtles. It turns out, I finally took the time to watch the cartoon in 2014, and this cartoon already is one of the, my opinion, one of the greatest mutant animal anthropomorphic superhero cartoons of all time. And in my opinion, cartoon-wise, not story and plot-wise, but cartoon-wise, my opinion, the Street Sharks is better than the original 80s Ninja Turtles. The original 80s and 90s Ninja Turtles cartoon. One of the many times the clone is better than the original right here. I also like how they share their own animation universe with the Extreme Dinosaurs cartoon, which is even better, but not as exciting as this cartoon right here. Then the infamous Super Mario Brothers Super Show, which, just like Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, this show has not aged well, but I think it's fared better than his live action movie counterpart. And it was always a hilariously bad show, and a Nostalgia Critics review of this show is one of my all-time favorites of his. Not only do I laugh and have a good time whenever I watch that review, but it always takes me back. I only saw this briefly when I was a kid, and rewatched more later. Gotta rewatch it again. Then another cartoon that I started watching in 2013, Ultra Force. I discovered this and Wildcats on I think it was 1UP. They count, or I think it was either 1UP or Newsrama, one of those. They counted down the top 10 worst superhero cartoons of all time, and both of these made it on this list. These two cartoons were far from the worst superhero cartoons, and Ultra Force, my opinion, while not as good as the other 90s superheroes, 90s and even now the 2000s and 2010s superhero cartoons, I thought this was a cool cartoon. It had one of the coolest teams ever and one of the coolest main characters in the Character Prime video game based upon this was pretty cool too. And the comic books I've seen were okay too. However, the show is not without its flaws, but I'll talk more about that in an actual review, full-length review. There's a short review from 2004, I think, was it 13 or 14, on my channel. Last but not least on this list is Sailor Moon, which this bounced back and forth from networks since 1995. Sailor Moon made its debut here in America in 1995, 3 years after its release in Japan, and before Toonami picked it up, one of their last stops after the show's cancellation was the USA Action Extreme block. I appreciate Action Extreme for giving Sailor Moon, in my opinion, now one of the greatest animes ever, a brief home before its final home in Cartoon Network's Toonami, where it will explode in popularity. So yeah, that was the very awesome USA Action Extreme block, the greatest cartoon lineup of shows of all time. Now I'm going to let you listen to several bumpers. The bumpers The bumpers were awesome. It featured kids with these. It featured kids with these electric extreme goggles. These electric extreme goggles, which electrocuted them and their hair, and it featured them on a couch after school, or in the mornings or whenever, about to tune into what's name, and it showed previews from various cartoons with two hyper overactive announcers, one hyper overactive adult male actor, and several hyper overactive kid actors. Here is one of the promos right here. I might show the other two. Mortal Kombat, they had a cool promo to hype up their show.
Are you ready for laser blast in action? Wildcats! They push it to the extreme! And how about extreme adventure? Exo Squad! They turn on the juice! And are you ready to save the world?
This always gets me hyped to watch.
He can't be beat! And he's the first green crime-fighting machine! Savage Dragon! Don't get in his way! So grab your weapons and get ready to join the team! Wildcats! Exo Squad! Street Fighter! Savage Dragon! USA Action Stream Team!
Yeah. Now for the Mortal Kombat one, which joined let me find it. The Mortal Kombat one, which joined the USA Action Extreme Team 1 year later in 1996.
Doing something for me for
Sorry about that. I hate these ads.
So I decided that Purdue Global was the way to go.
Learning should never stop.
It was definitely the right time for me. There's more to life than just being everyday average. This is my comeback. Start yours at purdueglobal.edu.
This Thanksgiving, the holidays.
Listen to this promo right here.
Combat order.
Don't be such a wall!
Don't be such a psycho. It's going to be back-to-back, wall-to-wall, take no prisoners, non-stop Mortal Kombat.
Shocking!
If that's not reason to be thankful, what is? Trust me, we'll let you know.
What are we waiting for? Combat time!
That promo right here, this promo right here makes the Mortal Kombat Defenders of the Realm cartoon seem more serious and darker than it really was. And here's the final one with the over enthusiastic male announcer.
He wants to know how you jumpstart your Saturdays. Because on USA, we've got Street Fighter, Wing Commander, Mortal Kombat, and Savage Dragon. 4 shows that will rock, roll, stomp, chomp, and blow you out of your seat. They're all new, all original, all action with Addison so extreme. It can't be contained. USA Action Extreme Team Saturday, every single Saturday. Only on USA.
So yes, like I said, and also all those promos will be in the description box below. But yeah, some final words on the USA Action Extreme block. Like I said, the greatest block ever, the greatest cartoon lineup of shows ever in the 90s. This is probably if I had to choose this and the next show, the next channel, I'm going to talk about the BKN network, the BKN Kids network, which I'm going to talk about next. In my opinion, if I had to choose, are probably the greatest cartoon lineup of shows and greatest television children's blocks of all time, even better than the famous Kids WB and Fox Kids, which that along with Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, Disney Channel, and many more overshadowed awesome blocks like this. And once again, I consider USA's one of their biggest and dumbest decisions ever was getting rid of its animation block. Now all that's left on their channel is crappy episodes of WWE Monday night Raw. Look at where USA is now. In my opinion, it's because of bonehead decisions like this, getting rid of your animation and cartoon block. But of course, they did it because they were facing increased competition from Cartoon Network's Toonami block, Disney Channel, and Nickelodeon, which had cartoons on for Cartoon Network was 24 hours, and the others were not 24 hours, but they were weekdays They were weekday mornings, afternoons, and evenings, and prime time too. And Disney Channel was close to 24 hours. So yeah. Yeah, so yeah, the greatest lineup of shows, and I always get nostalgic when I watch these. I wish I could have saw more of it when it was on, but I didn't have cable when it was on, and I didn't have my own television. When I finally got cable back, and when I finally got my own television, this block right here was off the air. But I would like to thank the YouTubers and YouTube channels like Rinse and Repeat, which his version recently got taken down, but he had the entire block with all of the 90s commercials and shows associated with it. He uploads popular children's blocks from the 90s. Rinse and Repeat. His channel will be in the description box below. His USA Cartoon Extreme, Action Extreme, and Cartoon Express, both of those got taken down. Now his other, however, the promos and the bumpers from these you can find online, uploaded by other channels. So yeah, I'm about to rewatch. Before I get started on my next review, I'm about to replay those bumpers again and rewatch more episodes of those various shows. So with that being said, also one final thing. The larger real-life superhero review will be in the description box below. You want to hear the rest of the music? Turn the video off right now.
Is it me, or have we been here before? Why don't we go somewhere that we can explore? So let's get away from here, run to where the skies are clear. And we'll go back in time to another world where we feel alive. We won't have to worry. With you by my side, there's nowhere we can't go, and you can be my guide. As long as you don't want to stop, take me there, take me anywhere you want to go, to a place that we both love. With you here, there is nothing left for us to fear. We'll make the bad guys disappear.